It's time for Wolo and Friends on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here is your host, the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
As I was walking down the street one day, a man came up to me and asked me what the time was that was on my watch. Yeah, and I said, does anybody really know what time it is? Does anybody really care? If so, I can't imagine why. We've all got time.
Dave is not here today. Yesterday was his birthday.
Big 7-0.
Happy birthday, Dave.
Happy birthday, Dave.
If you're listening, happy birthday to you. But he's not here today. He'll be back. I'm sure. I can't remember. I have to open up my calendar to tell you for sure. But he'll be back at some point. I can't remember if he's going to be gone Monday as well, but I don't believe so. I think he'll be back on Monday. So just gone for today. He's going to enjoy the games this weekend, as we all are. Bryant Dacus and Shane Morgan-Hart are sitting in here today instead of Dave. So Dave is out. But we're here to get you through this next hour, I suppose, until Johnny Radio comes on. And then you can hear Bryant later today.
That's right.
At 3 o'clock on Sports Time. And you're going to be at?
The Crazy Coop.
Wow, that'll be great. So you got to make sure you go out there to the Crazy Coop this afternoon.
We're going to have some great prizes, too, that
Really?
you can win if you come by, get some good chicken and some great prizes. So,
An old-fashioned remote.
That's right.
Well, let's start off here with watching the games we watched last night. The first game off was the Sixers and the Nets, and that seems to be dominating most of the conversation today with Kawhi Leonard being out in the Clippers game. I think a lot of people expected the Suns to win. They did. Mm-hmm. And even with Draymond out, the Warriors dominated that game against the Kings last night. And so really the game that's everyone's talking about today seems to be the Sixers and the Nets, namely in the first quarter, Joel Embiid. Nick Claxton tries to step over Joel Embiid. Mm-hmm. He's assessed a flagrant one. And Nick Claxton was assessed a technical, correct, for stepping over him.
Right.
The taunting of sorts.
Yes.
And it prompted a lot of discussion just in the first quarter of the game, whether or not Embiid should be ejected with the precedent set already in this playoffs of Draymond Green's ejection and the subsequent suspension.
Yeah.
And then later in the game, we're presented with even more information. James Harden punching Royce O'Neal in the unmentionables,
That's right.
the unmentionable area. I guess you can deduce what that unmentionable area is because we're not going to mention it.
No.
It's unmentionable.
Unmentionable,
so
right.
we're not going to mention it.
Yeah.
But that's what James Harden did. He punched him, although it looked like he was just kind of like doing his normal stiff arm to start the drive. Nonetheless, he was assessed a flagrant 2 and ejected from the game. And then later in the game, Nick Claxton got a second technical foul for I guess, hitting Embiid in the back and then subsequent taunting again.
Flexing on him.
And he was assessed a second technical, and he was ejected. So that one doesn't really matter as much. It really comes down to the ejections of Embiid first. So Brian, I'm assuming you're watching the game last night. What were your thoughts after Embiid's lack of an ejection? Where do you stand on it? Or were you sitting?
I was sitting.
What's your position on the matter?
I was sitting watching it, but my position on the matter is kind of sitting on the fence a little bit, I guess.
I love a good fence sitting.
I just
What's early? You don't want to I have to think of a different analogy. You don't want to show your cards too early in the day here. So it's probably smart you're fence sitting, right?
Maybe.
Can you see both sides?
Maybe as the day goes on, I'll jump off the fence and get on one side. You'll have to wait and see.
Well, here's what. Can I try and convince you then?
Please.
Well, here's what I would say. My buddy and I were talking when this happened, and he goes, man, how is Embiid not ejected if Draymond's ejected?
Right.
And I said, well, I see what you're saying, but I don't think that's a game we should be playing because I am team less ejections, not more. So I understand the precedent set with Draymond. Well, if Draymond's ejected, Embiid should be ejected. No, Draymond shouldn't have been ejected.
Yeah.
And for that matter, we're not even going to talk about Embiid not being ejected. So I understand it's not even, and that's an issue we'll get to a little bit later. I don't think we should be for less ejections, not more. And then
I'm with you.
But then Harden comes around and he gets ejected for something that, you you could say was intentional, say not intentional.
Yeah.
I think I fall in the same category in that one, less ejections, not more.
Certainly on that one, I'm in the not ejection camp.
Well, he
it
was,
didn't
though.
look. I mean, to me, it just didn't look like. I mean, it wasn't like what was Dylan Brooks earlier this season, his little punch against the Cavs. Like, that was worse than what this was.
The language essentially is the flagrant 2.
Right.
They go through the criteria of what a flagrant 2
Right.
is and assess the situation based on that. So it's not necessarily the egregiousness or the intent, I suppose, does not really factor into what they're deciding. I was trying to think of ways that this could be improved. Because I don't think, really the thing that's egregious to me with Draymond is not the ejection itself. I understand how they might have gotten to the flagrant 2.
Yeah.
But it's the
It was
subsequent
the
suspension that bothers
yeah.
me. But even the ejections itself, there has to be a way. Like,
Yeah.
for instance, Nick Claxton getting ejected. 2 technicals, second strike. You
You're out.
got to be done for this
Right.
game, man.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that. You got to be done for this game. Maybe that should be the overarching way you view flagrants. But then there has to be a point where you reach where what you did was so egregious,
Right.
you can't come back.
Yeah.
It seems to me, though, that they're not equipped, the league is not, in the way the rules are set up, to handle higher intensity basketball in the postseason.
The higher intensity is a good point because I felt like, especially the Nick Claxton second tech was more like, we can't let this game get out of control, and it's kind of getting that way.
And they assessed him a second tech. Did it cost the Nets the game?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I mean, maybe. That was a really close game.
It was.
So it really could have.
And he was ejected very early in the fourth. 4 minutes
Yeah.
left in 4 minutes gone by. Less than 4 minutes gone by in the fourth quarter. He
Yeah.
was ejected. And
So
then,
maybe.
And then the Sixers win the fourth quarter by 11.
Yeah.
Obviously, still got to make plays. Nick Claxton is not the end all be all. Really, the only player that could guard Embiid, though, because after that, they resorted to doubling Embiid, which maybe isn't a bad strategy the entire game. But you got to double Embiid. Someone's open. Maxey goes off for 25 last night. James Harden played a good game. Tobias hit his open shots. D'Anthony Melton comes
Played
in
well,
and
yeah.
he played really well, hitting big shots off the bench.
At Maxey, everyone's hopping on your on the Maxey train.
I love Maxey,
that
man.
you're driving, but I saw so many. Oh, Maxey's next up. Maxey's next.
He
Maxey's
is.
big.
And I think he was done a disservice by James Harden joining this team and being put in a starting rotation at the beginning of the year. They did not know how to play Maxey and Harden together. Maxey didn't know what to do when Harden was on the floor. He's like, what do I do with this guy? As Harden's dribbling the air out of the ball. They brought him off the bench for a portion of the season. That seemed to work well. They've gotten better at meshing together. But Maxey played the majority of those minutes last night. Obviously, with Harden's ejection, he kind of had to. But he was incredible last night after Harden was ejected. And D'Anthony Melton, who was traded away from the Grizzlies for his inability to hit shots in the postseason, he was 2 of 4 from 3 last night. And if I'm not, that was a postseason game. Is that correct?
Sure was. It was actually the third game into the postseason.
Wow, interesting.
So it wasn't like first, just kind of shaking that off.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Really is. Well, I just thought the ejection angle was interesting.
It is interesting. Well, especially with so many storylines in that one game. This isn't like we had 3 games last night, and in 2 of the games you had kind of controversy. It was one game to start the night. So,
and I suppose you could also make an argument for your fence setting that it really doesn't matter because the Warriors won last night convincingly.
Which I was so surprised that how big they won last night.
You say that, but they only lost 8 games at home all year.
No,
and
that's a good point.
And they played a lot of those games without Steph.
Yeah,
and even more without Andrew Wiggins.
But I'm
not to say Draymond is less or more
Right.
important than those 2 guys, but
Yeah.
they did win games without
But
players.
I'm not saying I'm surprised that they won the game.
It's how convincing
It's how
it was.
convincingly they won after really Sacramento controlling the first 2 games. I figured the Warriors would win, but I thought Sacramento would at least keep it close.
Keep it a close game.
Yeah.
I thought Brett Norsworthy made a good point, and I agree with it. I've also made this point this week, is that this series could easily be 2-0 the other way.
Oh, extremely
Those
easily.
games are back and forth the entire time. It's a shot here, a shot there. Could be, like we were just talking about with Nick Claxton ejection, could be a Draymond ejection away from being 1-1 and now being up 2-1 in the series. So that series is far from over.
That's what I was just about to say. I think last night's game kind of showed to the people that think this one was over at 2-0 that this is far from over. I mean, if Golden State wins again in Game 4 and then all they got to do is win one game on the road.
That's right.
I think that's very doable from what we saw.
Because what do we say?
A series doesn't start till the road team steals one.
Yeah, well, I always say till a home team
yeah.
loses.
I kind of paraphrased a little bit.
Hey, same principles
That's
apply.
right.
It's the same thing goes through there.
That's right.
So that'll be interesting too.
Yeah.
But I really want to attack. I think everyone's kind of talking about the ejection angle today
Mm-hmm.
and what that means for the league. But with the Warriors winning last night, you could very easily make an argument that it might be overstated, that narrative of ejections and technicals and this and that. However, I think Embiid going out in that game is a whole different story.
Yeah.
Not to say that Embiid is any more or less important to his team than Draymond is to his. I don't want to make those comparisons, but that would be something if he was ejected from that game.
You're absolutely right, because that was early in the game.
First
when that
quarter.
happened. Yeah, so that would have been a whole three probably and a half quarters without him. So that would have you could definitely argue then that the Nets win that game.
The only to kind of put a bow on this, the only resolution that I could think of would have made it always to have like a 2-strike rule, regardless of the level of flagrant. But I think you could easily say that doesn't work because there has to be a level that you can't reach, and I don't know how you increase the level of what a flagrant 2 should be. How does that change from the regular season to playoffs? Imperfect system.
Yeah.
But it seems to me that we can all agree that the intensity of the playoffs is getting to
this is an imperfect system.
Maybe it is. Maybe it is an imperfect system. You know who else plays this weekend? They don't play tonight, Brian, but you know who else plays this weekend in the NBA playoffs?
The Grizzlies.
The Memphis
That's
Grizzlies
right.
travel
On the
to
road.
Los Angeles. This series has started
It has.
because the Grizzlies lost one game at home.
The first game.
We don't know the status of John Morant necessarily. We know the status of Brandon Clark and Steven Adams. How confident are you, Bryant, the Grizzlies can take one in Los Angeles?
Not super, but I could be swayed.
Could you put so you're sitting on the fence on
No,
this one
I'm not.
too?
I'm like leaning on the fence on the side that's not confident.
Yeah, you don't
But I
think
could
they can
easily
win.
climb over. You know.
Yeah. I don't know if they can win one in Los Angeles in these two games. You know, presumably they can.
Yeah, I mean, presumably, sure, but they've
and
just
you only
been
have
so
to win
bad
one
on the road.
and that's a huge factor. Their woes on the road have transcended the players on the court.
Mm-hmm.
Steven Adams' absence did not make them worse on the road. They were bad on the road
The whole season.
Exactly. But regardless of the players on the floor, the Grizzlies were bad on the road.
And one thing that I've noticed in a lot of these road games, close road games that they've lost, I remember the first game back from the All-Star break against the 76ers. They really controlled the game. They were leading by like 8 or 9 with about 4 minutes left, and Philadelphia just marches right back and wins the game by like 3. So, and that's in a regular season game. I think playoff game in a playoff atmosphere, even if you have a lead with 4 or 5 minutes left on the road, I'm still not confident that you win that game.
Well, and that's been the Grizzlies' kryptonite of sorts, is finishing basketball games, and that has been directly impacted by the absence of Steven Adams.
Yeah.
They've gotten a lot worse in that regard because they just don't get second opportunities. They're taking a lot of tough shots late in games, and if they're not falling, which sometimes and oftentimes they aren't falling for the Grizzlies as of late, they have trouble winning those games.
But I will say, I was happily surprised with what Xavier Tillman did late in that second game. He came up with some really big offensive rebounds, some really big second chance opportunities. So, I mean, if you can take that, translate that into a road game,
Tough
then
to continue that, though.
It is.
Because you didn't really have any expectations for what Xavier Tillman could do. So now you're setting expectations on it. It might be tough for those to beat.
I think it will be tough on the road against Anthony Davis.
It's easy to exceed expectations when you don't have it.
And Anthony Davis, I mean, they were just hitting him in the face with basketballs and
I have a good feeling
everything.
Anthony Davis is going to respond this weekend in a significant way.
I think so, too. Well,
I don't think you're going to see 2 bad games in a row. The last week of the season, he scored like 35, 37, 40, 37.
With like 15 rebounds, 17 rebounds, 22 rebounds.
So I've got a good feeling that if we're looking at those two guys, who has the chance to be more consistently good,
I would say probably AD.
I would say it's Anthony Davis.
And then
as
also
well.
you have the whole storyline with how's LeBron gonna come out after the Dylan Brooks thing?
That's overstated.
I think so too. But it is a fun storyline.
It is, but it's all. I think it's all in good fun, all in jest, kind
Yeah.
of more in jest than people are making it out to be.
Oh, for sure.
There's a portion of the fan base that likes him talking to LeBron. There's a portion of the fan base like, "What are you doing? You're going to poke the bear. He's going to start
Well, that's
playing
what he
well.
wants to poke
He
the
wants
bear.
to poke the bear. LeBron isn't going to play discernibly better because Dylan Brooks said something in the locker room.
But
after
you know,
the game.
like either way, if LeBron puts up 50 or if LeBron puts up 15, that's going to be post-game.
storyline, that's
Oh,
right.
Dylan Brooks, shut him
ridiculous.
down.
It's
He couldn't
ridiculous.
respond. Or LeBron responded in a big way.
It's so ridiculous, dude.
Don't poke the bear.
I almost think the narrative about Michael Jordan saying, and I took that
Yeah,
personal,
I
and
took
I
it
played
personal.
better because of that. I think all that is overstated. It sounds good when he says
Sure.
it in an interview after the game. It's just so overstated. Like, LeBron is not going to play better because someone's talking. Michael Jordan didn't play well in these NBA Finals games because George Karl didn't talk to him in a restaurant. It sounds good. It sounds like a cool narrative. Like
It
the
makes
story.
that seem like legendary.
Yeah, but I mean that's just ridiculous. It
Yeah.
just has no place in reality.
You're
But we
just-
all agree.
You're just one of the best players of all
Exactly.
time. I
But
mean,
for some reason, we all buy into these narratives like it's so true.
that
like
killer instinct.
the schematics on the floor make no difference one way or another. It was all about this narrative. He didn't talk to me in a
He's
restaurant.
just locked in.
Dylan Brooks said something after the game, and that was the difference in the series. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
It has no basis in reality, but it's a neat story
I think it's funny,
nonetheless.
though, yeah.
Also, I think it's funny how confident that a lot of people are that the Grizzlies, if they win one game in Los Angeles, they return to this home court advantage of sorts. That's super overstated, I think, too.
Yeah.
These professional basketball players, home court advantage, if you're not the better team in a series, is not going to make you win a series,
Well,
even less so
yeah.
when LeBron James is on the other side of the court. You think LeBron is going to be swayed because Game 7 is in Memphis?
No.
If the Lakers are the better team, they're not going to win. It's so ridiculous to me how confident everybody is in a Game 7 in Memphis against LeBron James, who, by the way, has never lost a series in the first round.
Well, and we also, I mean, we've already seen that the Lakers can win at FedEx Forum and completely take the air out of the crowd. I mean, we talked all after that game was the crowd never was able to get into that game on Sunday. So I don't think, I mean, that home court atmosphere is fueled by the electricity in it, and the Lakers have already shown that they can deal with that in the first game of the series.
Who's been the better team in the series?
I think the Lakers have.
I agree.
I mean,
I think save for one quarter, you could maybe say one half.
Yeah.
The Lakers have been better throughout. Well,
Yeah.
the first half of last game, but the
First
second
game of
half, the
last game.
Lakers
They were,
dominated.
yes.
You could even just say the second quarter of last game. Although no, they were up by a bit. They were up big in the end of the first quarter.
Yeah.
So maybe the first half. I'll give them a half of basketball.
I'll give them the
because
first
they won.
half because I felt very comfortable watching. I remember being, I don't have the exact numbers, but I remember being comfortable in the first half, and then the second half was when they trimmed it down to 8. It was a 6-point game. It was a 4-point game. Then it was back up to an 8-point game. So
Even at 8
yeah.
and 10, I wasn't very.
I wasn't
comfortable
no, I wasn't
in
comfortable at all.
terms of the Grizzlies scoring.
No.
And the Grizzlies didn't score down the stretch of that game either.
But they just had played so well in the first half, kind of give them that
That's right.
cushion that they could kind of give them some wiggle room. But
So it'll be an interesting series.
Yeah.
I really think that it's an exciting series. I know the stress of it is probably getting to a lot of Grizzlies
But
fans
it's a fun
wanting
series
them to win.
for sure.
And the stress of the games themselves with the injuries and people absent, you don't know who's going to be there, coupled with it's probably the most talked about series nationally because of the Lakers factor. I think that's weighing on a lot of people.
Yeah.
But if you just separate yourself from all of that and appreciate the basketball
Oh, yeah.
series, I think that would be my advice to all the fans watching is separate yourself from your fandom a little bit. You can still cheer the Grizzlies
Oh,
on,
yeah.
but really appreciate what's happening here. You're never going to play a series against LeBron James where he plays 4 games in Memphis again. He's arguably the best basketball player to ever live, not to upset any Michael Jordan fans. But
Well, you said arguably.
But I think really you should appreciate this
Oh, yeah.
series for how good it is and what it's worth, and really appreciate the basketball play because it's been excellent.
It's
to
been
this
really
point.
good.
It's been really, really good. The last thing I wrote here, I didn't even get to say it because I wrote down. I like to write like a little journal entry every morning. Just gets my thoughts rolling.
Sure.
Sometimes it's just a total abstract narrative that I'm just writing, like thinking of a crazy story I'm making
Sure.
up from a writing prompt. Some days it's sports topics. One thing I wrote.
I always loved a good writing prompt in school.
Love it. You always do. It's a good it's good practice. I
Yeah.
recommend it. My last thing I wrote about the LeBron James in Game 7 here. I want to read it because I was proud of this.
Please.
Proud of this quote. We're all in consensus that we don't care who's on the other side. We're going to bet against LeBron James in Game 7. I don't care if they play the game on Mars. It doesn't matter to me. LeBron James always has a home court advantage.
That's a good point.
I think it's a good way to end the segment, Brian.
Yeah.
And when we come back, we're going to talk more NBA with our agent in Chicago, Andy Schiffman. He comes your way next.
Be sure to follow us at Sports56 WHBQ on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to watch live video of our shows, stay up to date with station events, and have chances to win prizes. Don't miss out on anything that's going on. Follow us at Sports 56 WHBQ.
Everything's greening up, and it's my favorite time of the year because we start playing golf, and I got the best place to go play golf. That is beautiful Miramichi in Woodstock, about 12 minutes from downtown. This gorgeous place, well, it's challenging, but the scenery is so darn beautiful. And did you know that Miramichi Golf Course now offers memberships? It's a great way to play more golf for less out of pocket. Their membership runs $300 a month plus tax and includes unlimited rounds, range balls, no extra cart fees, priority tee time booking, and discounts in the pro shop. There is no initiation fee. So you want to go and just practice. They got the best practice facilities around. Unlimited range balls, and it's $300 a month plus play whenever you want to. It's a win-win. Call today for your membership. You want to act fast because there are only a few spots left at the great Miramichi.
There are so many ways to buy and sell houses these days. How do you choose? Well, of course, choose the right way with Chet Whitsitt. Chet has over 37 years of experience as both a broker and a sales agent. He's helped lots of people buy and sell homes, and he will help you. It's the right way, and it's that easy. Buying, selling, or referrals, check with Chet at 901-484-5689 and Cry Like Realtors at 901-756-8900. Buying or selling? Check with Chet Whitsitt.
It's time to celebrate amazing deals at Gossett Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram Fiat's Ram Truck Month and Jeep Celebration Event. How about 2023 Jeep Compass Sport 4x4, $429 a month, or buy for $30,590. 2022 Dodge Charger XST, $31,785 or $449 a month. That's $4,000 off. And a tough 2023 Ram 1500 Bighorn Crew Cab 4x4, now $699 a month. That's $5,000 off. Hey, you won't find a better deal anywhere else, and if we don't have it, Gossett will order it today. So drive past the rest and come to the best. Gossett Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram Fiat on the Pike or online at GossettMotorCars.net.
If you want it, we got it at Gossett Motor Cars.
Compass PT 531208, MSRP 31590, Charger NH202120, MSRP 35785, Ram PN 526883, MSRP 54090, includes all rebates and incentives, PF 695, excludes tax on a licensee dealer. For complete details, offer valid through 4/30/2023 with approved credit dealer stock only.
Hi, this is Troy Fiveash, owner of Fiveash Roofing. In these uncertain economic times, there are so many things as a contractor and a business owner that I cannot control. The rising cost of materials, not to mention fuel and transportation costs. In the last 2 years, shingle prices have almost doubled and commercial materials have doubled. And I don't have to tell you what fuel costs these days. But you know what I can control? How much markup I put on a project. I have always prided myself in knowing I never gouge a customer. But in an effort to ensure my crews have work and my customers are being treated fairly, I have lowered my profit margin, hoping to give you a price you can live with and keeping my crews busy. So if you need a roof or gutters, please give us a call. Fiveash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical. Fiveash Roofing, a proud sponsor of Tiger Athletics and a member of the Tigers home team. 367-0050 or MemphisRoofer.com. 367-0050 or MemphisRoofer.com.
Fiveash Roofing, it's what we do. We're here for you.
Homer Skelton Hyundai Genesis in Olive Branch has an offer you can't refuse. They will pay you to do business with them if you want luxury. And I'm talking the Genesis G70 car. If you would love to have that kind of new technology, they will give you a $1,000 rebate when you finance with Genesis Motor Finance. In other words, they'll pay you $1,000 to do business with them, and you get brand new luxury. You can't beat it. That's Homer Skelton Hyundai Genesis, right at the corner of Craft Road and Highway 78 in Olive Branch. Homer Skelton Hyundai Genesis in Olive Branch, where customer retention is amazing. There's a reason. They take care of you with a team that's been together for a long time. Whether it's finance or whether it's service, you can't beat them. Homer Skelton Hyundai Genesis.
Call the pros at Conway Services and save up to $1,000 on select new energy-efficient HVAC systems. Plus, receive a free whole home air purification system. Request your free consultation or second opinion today. Call 384-3511 to schedule your appointment. Visit conwayservices.com for details, terms, and conditions. License number 64210, 64365 EAS, MS 1968.
Call 384-3511. Conway Services. Call Conway today.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Very disappointing, I'm sure, for everybody. I am not the voice of the Tigers. I am Jay Morgan Harder. Brian Dacus is here with me. And we are joined now by one of my favorite guests that Dave has every week, Andy Schiffman, agent from Priority Sports and Entertainment. He joins us now, and he is he can answer all of our questions about the NBA here. He also, I always like to mention this when we start, is he is the agent for one of my favorite players, George Niang, for the Sixers, who had a big win last night. So let me start with that Sixers game with you, Andy. Last night there was a lot of talk starting in the first quarter about ejections, specifically Joel Embiid not being ejected for kicking Nick Claxton, and people like to compare that directly to the Draymond Green ejection. Little did we know later in the game, James Harden would be ejected himself for a flagrant 2, and then Nick Claxton gets his second technical and is ejected. How do you feel about the way these ejections are being officiated? How about the games themselves are being officiated? And what do you think about comparing ejections from guys like Draymond Green to Embiid, Harden, Nick Claxton, and so on?
Look, I think you make a great point, Jay. I think the games are being officiated unfairly. I think they are giving deference to the superstars. Watching that Philly game last night, anyone that watched it, in my opinion, the foul that Embiid, when Embiid kicked Claxton, you compare that to what Harden did later. If you're asking me which was more severe and more obvious of a flagrant or warranting an ejection, it's, for me, Embiid's foul.
Yeah.
I think maybe you could sit there and make the argument that Harden's a little more discreet, but I think for sure there was some acting on the Nets' part in both of those plays. And if you're going to sit there and call it an ejection, as a fan, I would look at Embiid's foul as more worthy of an ejection compared to what Harden did. I don't think either should have got ejected. I don't even know, would it be a flagrant if you were in Philadelphia for this game? I don't know. I think it was absurd that Harden got ejected. Maybe if it was not Embiid and maybe if it was just a regular rotational player that's not Joel Embiid, maybe that guy gets ejected. So obviously, look, you've seen it with Draymond. You see it. I feel like watching the Grizzlies, Dylan Brooks is 1 inch away from getting an ejection half the time he plays. So I don't know. I think the league really needs to be more consistent in its officiating for these games.
I agree with you 100%. I said last night, I was talking to a buddy about it, I said, I'm team less ejections, not more, because he was trying to compare Embiid to Draymond, saying, well, if Draymond was ejected for that, Embiid should be ejected for this. Like you said, it's not necessarily fair. It sounds like, based on what you said, you're kind of team less ejections overall over the course of a playoff series.
I just think, look, we haven't really seen it yet, but if you're going to sit there and give out flagrants or ejections to non-superstars, and again, we really haven't seen it lately, but just throughout the course of the season, you do see it. And as I said, these officials, they do give deference more to the all-stars and superstars, should be more consistent. I think I can appreciate the fact, to an extent, that the refs last night in that 76ers game did eject Harden in the sense that they're holding him accountable. But again, it's inconsistent with what you've seen around the league. So I think they are trying to cut down and make an effort on this rough play, especially in the playoffs. But you want to see that be consistent across the board with every team.
Kind of when we're talking about these ejections from last night, I know a lot of people, especially with the Joel Embiid play, were comparing it to what happened with Draymond against Sacramento a couple nights ago. What did you think about the NBA's decision to suspend him for last night's game? Obviously, it didn't really make a difference because the Warriors kind of rolled last night, but what did you think of the suspension?
Well, I tend to think that, and I think I saw something in the media about this, that even the statement from the league, it might have been, that the suspension of Draymond was really more general. It was more based on his overall conduct as a member of the Warriors recently, not necessarily that one play. And obviously Memphis fans know he's a villain, right? I've talked to him before. He's definitely not a bad guy, but he's rough when he goes out there and plays. And he has no regard for aggressive fouls and just being very physical. And I think you can say that with a lot of players around the league, but with Draymond, it's just very consistent every season against specific players, as you've seen their whole feud with Dillon Brooks and the Grizzlies over the years, from the playoffs even previously. And so I guess you could say it's warranted. I don't necessarily think it's right for the league to come out and say, well, this is more of a suspension due to the overall character and his actions in general. I think you have to look at it more on a micro level versus macro and judge a suspension, associate that with one specific play. I guess, look, I think it's warranted. I think you have to eliminate players doing these things when other players are in vulnerable positions, and kicking and throwing elbows and all those sort of actions. I think you got to cut that out and try and tune the game up again. But if you're going to do it for a guy like Draymond, or if you're going to do it for a guy like Harden, like being as an objective opinion, I think you do that for Embiid. Now, they're not going to, but I think you have to if you're calling it to these other guys.
Like you said, it kind of comes down to inequality. Like you were mentioning a minute ago, it's tough to see. One more question outside of the playoff games themselves, and that is Nick Nurse. Looked like he's stepping down from Toronto now. A very interesting stepping down. I'm not sure how much. Well, I guess I'll ask you, how much do you think we can assess the franchise as a whole with this stepping down? Does this have more to do with just Nick Nurse's personality and the way he is, or is there some kind of dysfunction with upper management and him? How do you assess the situation of Nick Nurse stepping down?
Well, he got fired. Let's call it what it is.
Fair enough.
I think he'll very quickly find a head coaching job. I believe Houston's already in the mix and talking with him. I think you could potentially see some other movement. It remains to be seen with some of these other non-playoff teams, lottery teams like Detroit, what direction they're going to go. So I think that the Raptors do have some dysfunction internally. Without getting too in the weeds with it, I think there's potentially some front office personnel not seeing eye to eye with other front office personnel there. I would not be surprised if you see their president of basketball operations, Masai Ujiri, take over a different franchise. Maybe he moves to the Wizards to try and rebuild the Wizards, or another team in general. Does he take over Charlotte if Charlotte makes the move? And I think that's, obviously, he's a great executive, but I think that's more of a product of some dysfunction internally. And I think really for a large part of this season, Jay, I've heard that Nick was probably going to be out as the Raptors coach, barring anything unforeseen in the playoffs, which didn't happen. So I'm not surprised by it. I've never really heard anything negative, per se, with regards to Nick as a head coach. I just think, look, they overachieved and they got relatively lucky when they went out there years ago and won a title with Kawhi and Kyle Lowry, who's our client. And they're trying to get that back, and they've drafted well. They've added some good pieces in OG Anunoby and Scotty Barnes, and obviously taking a trade for Gary Trent and locking up Fred VanVleet. They have some good pieces. They're just not really getting everything out of these guys as a unit as they want. And so I think it's the right time for a coaching change.
Yeah, a tough situation. I mean, theoretically, they've one of the greatest roster constructions in the league, I think. They have so many guys that are the same size and just bigger than other teams. But like you said, it just hasn't equated to any significant winning for them. Very interesting what you said. You think the championship season is the outlier more so than the seasons down as of late. I like that. If you look at it as a whole, you're probably right about that. I want to ask you specifically, though, before we run out of time here, I want to ask you specifically about the playoff games that are going on themselves. Which team, kind of an overarching question here, which team have you been most impressed by? What team has shown you the most? Is it the Sixers going up big? Is it the Celtics or dominating that series with the Hawks? Which team, or is it a team that's maybe a lower seed? Which team has impressed you the most over the course of these first couple games in the playoffs?
Well, I'll tell you, I don't want to sit there and say impressed me the most, because it's not surprising to me to see what Boston's doing, or to see the other night Cleveland dismantle the Knicks. Obviously, Phoenix now is taking control of that series and come back after the first one against the Clippers. What's surprising to me, I think, two things. One, the Grizzlies, and doing what they did in Game 2. Even without Ja, knowing how the Grizzlies played this season without Ja, we can all sit there and say sometimes they're even better without him at times. They played well. I did not see that one coming. I thought the energy was going to be there, but I just said, you know what, it's the playoffs. They don't have their leader. The Lakers are healthy with LeBron and AD. I think those guys are going to have big games, and Lakers are going to take a 2-0 lead. And it was a bit surprising for me as a fan to see what the Grizzlies did the other night, Wednesday night, against the Lakers when they sat there and won by 10, and then the Bucks. I was a little bit concerned about the Bucks. You lose game one to Miami, then Giannis, doesn't play after the lower back contusion. I was worried for that one, even despite Miami losing Tyler Hero, for probably more likely for the extent of the playoffs unless they make it to the finals. And the Bucks just completely picked apart the Heat and destroyed them. And so if you're a coach, if you're a GM of one of these teams, it's very encouraging to know that you can really hold down home court and take care of business at home with your superstar being out. It just uplifts everyone else around you, players 2 through 15 on the roster, and gives you that much more encouragement, optimism, momentum when you go on the road and play these teams in their home.
Do you think – I love the teams you mentioned, by the way. The Celtics, I agree, have been unbelievable. Do you think the Nuggets, in a way, are kind of flying under the radar with how dominant they've been against the Timberwolves?
I do, and the other night, Minnesota made a nice little run, but Denver, they were at home, they were resilient. I love watching Denver. I think Denver could absolutely – look, you can sit there and say Denver, you can say Phoenix. I don't think even the Warriors potentially – I don't think you're wrong in saying any one of those teams could make it to the Western Conference Finals and the finals. I think Denver's probably still my favorite to come out of the West. They're very, very good. I think Jokic is probably the front runner for MVP. We have Michael Porter there, who's been great. They're getting great production from other supporting cast members on the team, obviously Murray and Gordon. So, yeah, I mean, Denver, people aren't really talking about Denver, but I think it's almost because people are expecting Denver to do what they're doing now. They're up 2-0 against Minnesota before they play the Timberwolves at home. There's obviously dysfunction to an extent with Minnesota and Gobert and everything surrounding that. So I think Denver's going to probably sweep the Timberwolves and could really end up in the finals and have a chance to win the title this year.
Before I ask you about the Grizzlies, you mentioned the Celtics, how dominant they've been in the East. You said the Nuggets you think are probably you have to pick as your favorite to come out of the West. Has the Sixers shown you anything they can compete with the Celtics, or do you just like the Celtics to come out of the East at this point?
I mean, I hate to say it, but it's an easy way out, but it's very similar in the East, right? Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Boston, those have been the big three in the East all season. Any one of those teams could very easily make it to the finals. Boston is completely destroying Atlanta, and Brooklyn came back and took the lead last night in Philadelphia, and they, again, another resilient team. I'd lean towards Boston coming out of the East, but, man, Philadelphia, Boston, I think they would play each other next round. I would love to see that, and it looks like it's going to happen by all accounts. So it's going to be exciting to watch, and by all accounts, that could be considered, from a competitive standpoint, the Eastern Conference Finals, and I think that's a series that could definitely go 7 games, but I like Boston.
I'm with you 100%. The Sixers honestly showed me a lot. I really thought I was very confident in my pick Boston to win the East going into the playoffs, but the Sixers really showed me something over these first few games.
Yep.
Last topic I want to get to, we haven't gotten to it yet. You mentioned it a little bit earlier, is this Grizzlies series with the Lakers, tied 1-1 now as they go to Los Angeles. I think a lot of things, the health of Ja Morant is a huge factor, but I think it's kind of underappreciated the loss of Steven Adams at this point. The season just kind of reset in a lot of people's minds going into the playoffs. How confident are you that the Grizzlies can steal one in Los Angeles? How confident are you in the Lakers in general?
Well, I think it's going to be difficult. I would say I'm pretty confident because I've watched the Grizzlies all year, obviously, and they are well, trying to think of the right phrase. Look, they know if they lose one in L.A., especially even, they could very easily lose 2. Their backs against the wall, and that they know what's at stake, right? So they cannot let that happen. So I would say I'm pretty confident, but I'm not going to sit there and say, hey, they're going to go out to L.A. and they're going to win every game they're playing there. The Lakers are very good at home. You saw in Game 1, despite who they're playing, you're going to have production from LeBron, AD, Austin Reeves, Vanderbilt's a great defender. Production off the bench, Dennis Schroeder, Rui Hachimura. So I would like to think the Grizzlies can definitely steal one in L.A., but it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, far from it, in fact, especially after a tough game from Anthony Davis. I have one weird hypothetical question for you. Let's say this series goes all the way to 7 games. So Game 7's in Memphis. It's tied 3-3. Say Ja's playing, everybody's playing. Would you have the the courage to pick against LeBron James in a Game 7?
If it's in Memphis, yes.
Really?
I would, yes.
Interesting. A tough guy to pick against. And one more wait, seriously. So, and I was very surprised that he never lost a first-round series in his career. 14-0, unbelievable.
First time for everything.
There's a first time. I love the way you think, Andy.
Yep.
My last question for you here. I meant to ask this earlier, and I totally forgot. I apologize. I'm jumping around with you. I want to go back to the Sixers real quick last night.
Sure.
I was talking to my buddy about this. Why P.J. Tucker, an excellent defender, was integral in the Heat going to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. Why does P.J. Tucker not shoot anymore?
I think that's more of a product of Doc Rivers' system. I think everything is run through, as you know, everything is run through Harden and Embiid. And look, P.J., if he's sitting there wide open on the perimeter from a kick out off the pick and roll with Harden and Embiid, or someone driving the paint, or Tyrese Maxey, but he's right. He's out there on the starting five. He's a fifth option, so he's not going to get many looks. I mean, he'll get looks here and there, or take corner three here and there. But I think he knows what his role is. I mean, last night he took 2 threes and took 3 shots overall. But overall, like, his role out there is to do what he does: be gritty, go out there and rebound, pick up your body, defend, move the ball. I mean, he had some great hustle plays and getting second possessions on offensive rebounds last night for big offensive rebounds for the Sixers. And that's his role. So he's not out there thinking, I got to score, I got to shoot. That's not his mindset. That's not his role that's assigned to him by Doc.
Well, Andy, that's a good good answer for why not. I just thought it was peculiar. You know, he's so integral in those old teams, and he just doesn't shoot it all anymore. But you make a good point. He does his job exceptionally well and fits into Doc Rivers' system exceptionally well, too. Mm-hmm. Andy, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate the time you gave us this morning, and good luck in all your scouting.
I appreciate it. And if Dave is listening, happy birthday.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Andy.
Thanks, Andy.
Andy Schiffman with us this morning on Wolo and Friends. When we come back, we are going to do a great segment. What are we watching this weekend?
Can I talk about some breaking news real quick before we get to break?
Please do. I didn't see it break.
The NFL has suspended 5 players from the Lions for gambling.
Really? More on that as it unfolds next.
Start your day with Sports 56 Mornings with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy. Weekday mornings from 7 to 10, right here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
When you think about insurance and you want great value without sacrificing great service, I want you to think one place: the Eflin Insurance and the entire Eflin Insurance team. Matt and his group of professionals will access 10 leading companies to find the right home and auto program that fits your budget and your absolute needs. The Eflin Insurance team, the number 386-GER, 386-4777.
I'm Gary York. I'm the service director at Lexus in Memphis. Our service department wants to be more than just a place where you get your oil changed. We do glass repair, windshield replacement, recalibration of your camera and sonar systems, even wheel repair, tire replacement, all the things you would expect from a luxury automotive dealer. Please check out our website. You can schedule your appointment, check out our specials, hours of operation, or if you'd like to do it in person, please reach out to one of our associates at 901-271-5199.
It's Spring Black Friday at the Home Depot, and we have laundry appliances that just fit. Fit your space, fit your needs, and fit your budget. Like a new Samsung laundry set with large capacity, so you spend less time doing laundry. And with sensor dry technology to automatically optimize time and temperature, you'll spend less energy on it too. Save up to $600 on this Samsung laundry set in-store and online during Spring Black Friday at the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
It's time to hit the road in your new Kia from Gossett Kia on the Pike. You'll be turning heads and dropping jaws in a 2023 Kia Forte LXS. 41 MPG, now $249 a month, $27.99 due at signing. Or take your pick from all-around good-looking SUVs in 2023 Seltos LX all-wheel drive, $29.99 due at signing. Or 2023 Kia Soul LX, $27.99 due at signing, $269 a month, your choice, all 36-month leases. Plus reliability you can count on. Kia's 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain limited warranty. Can't find what you're looking for? Let Bobby J order you a new ride today. That's Gossett Kia, 1900 Covington Pike, or shop 24/7 at KiaCovingtonPike.com.
If you want it, we got it at Gossett Motor
$650 acquisition fee, 30,000 miles, 20 cents excess mileage, Forte PE 581,348, MSRP 21,690, Sotos P745,838, MSRP 24,840, Soul P7205317, MSRP 22,250. Includes all rebates and incentives. Must finance through Hyundai. Excludes tax title and license with approved credit. See dealer for complete details. Offer valid through 4/30/23. Dealer stock only. Warranties and limited powertrain warranty. See Kia.com or retailer for details.
We're right in the middle of spring and summer's knocking at the door. And what's that I hear? You don't have a pool? Well, Family Leisure's happy to solve that issue for you because they have the lowest prices on pools in town. Plus, you can get a free liner upgrade during this pool sale. Want a spa? All spas in stock are up to $1,000 off. You want a play gym for the kids? They're on sale for under $2,000, and you can get special financing on any of those deals. Now, when you go to Family Leisure and you pick out what you want, I want you to tell that friendly salesperson, I heard on the radio I can get half off my installation. And that's true. You mentioned you heard this ad on radio, and you can get half off any installation. Pools, spas, play gyms, any installation. Don't go another year without. Get to Family Leisure, get a great deal, and get half off installation when you mention this ad. Family Leisure, Whitten Road at I-40, where family and fun come together. There's an institution in East Memphis that I love talking about. It's the Spirit Shop at 4848 Poplar Avenue, right down the street from Clark Tower, and it looks like a log cabin. It's been around Memphis since 1969 with a family-owned, friendly, knowledgeable sales staff that is just a wonderful place to go. I love going in and talking wine or bourbons, and they've got such great selection. So if you've not visited the Spirit Shop in a while, it's been remodeled. You'll love what you see when you need spirits. Tell Eddie Wolo said hello.
Now, back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM, presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
I'm not the voice of the Tigers.
No, you're not.
Far from it.
Maybe one day.
Tigers play tonight, though.
You
Ooh, that could
big.
be something you're looking forward to this weekend. We'll get to that in a second. What are you going to be watching for this weekend? Kind of a remix of a segment that they do. I know every radio show, I suppose. But you know, if you really think critically about it.
Yes, that's true.
It happens everywhere, every day. Pretty much the whole show is just telling people what you're going to be watching.
That's right.
But that's what we're going to do here.
Yeah.
And there's so much to talk about, whether it be local sports, the Redbirds on a win streak. The Birds are hot. Did they win last night? Because I just said they were on a win streak. I don't know.
I think so.
You don't have to look it up.
I'll look it up.
But they were on a win streak if it ended yesterday. Hopefully it did not.
It did not.
So the Birds are hot.
10 consecutive wins for the Birds.
10 big ones for the Birds. You also have the Friday night, what's it called?
Stripes.
Friday Night Stripes.
Get it because Tiger has stripes.
Stripes. So what can you, Brian, this would be the portion of the show where Dave Woloshin would usually call you and ask you to talk about Tiger sports. What can you tell me about Friday Night Stripes?
There, you nailed it.
Nailed it.
You need your bell.
I don't have it.
So this year, I actually am really excited about it because they're going back to the old format of the blue-gray game.
Well, before you go any further, Brian, the way you worded that makes it sound like you're usually not excited at all for the Memphis spring game.
No. I always love the Memphis spring game, but
you're actually
it's just,
excited now.
I am actually excited. But, like, the whole 1s v1, 2s v 2s, maybe you change a couple players. Split it down the middle, give me two teams, let's play football. And that's what they're doing tonight at Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium. I almost said FedEx Forum. Can't play football in FedEx Forum.
Or FedEx Field.
FedEx Field. That's where the Tigers baseball team plays.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it'll be good. I think the big thing is the Tigers have brought in a lot of transfers from the portal, so you'll get a look at most of those. A couple guys injured that you won't get to see, you'll get to see most of them. You'll get to see the boys in action. I think it's going to be a good night. No. So you got to go there. It's almost like you're. It's like VIP seeing it. You got to be there in person to see it.
Is it on the radio?
It's a great question.
I don't know.
I'm not positive.
I know Greg Gaston's going to be there.
Yeah, but Greg does a lot of they give him a mic and put him on the jumbotron.
Oh, that's
he talks.
great. Yeah, that's right.
But I do know it's free admission, also free parking, so you don't got to worry about paying for any of that when you go. You can just go and enjoy some ball.
sure there's lots of fun giveaways too, lots
Sure,
of fun activities.
sure.
You get a chance to tailgate again, which you don't always get in the
for
spring.
like the kids and stuff. You can go down the field after the game, get player autographs, so that's fun thing to do.
Greg Gasson also told me a lot of former players are going to be showing up there
I'm sure,
too.
yeah.
And I made the joke, well, Brady White didn't have to travel very far,
No, he
but
does
he's
not.
on the bus going
Oh,
to
that's
Birmingham.
right. He's in Birmingham
so
right
he won't
now.
even be there. Another thing to watch for this weekend, Bryant, the boats. 7-point dogs, is that correct?
I think 7.5. I think
Wow.
there's a hook in there. But, yeah, I mean, this is they're playing the last year's champions. So it's going to be a
Birmingham
tough game.
Stallions.
Birmingham Stallions.
So that'll be a tough game.
We'll see if they can bounce back. Got some guys off the injury list for the boats, so a more full team.
And you can hear us do Tiger Bankroll on Sports Time.
No. Boat bankroll.
Boat Bankroll. I'm sorry. It's
Tiger Bankroll.
Tiger
in the
Bankroll
winter.
just rolls off the tongue. Well, we could always bet on the spring game. I think Memphis wins.
That's a
and covers.
Heady bet.
Memphis wins and covers.
I like it.
Either way. What else is going off?
You've got
we got to talk about the Lakers and the Grizzlies this
the
weekend.
Grizzlies and the Fakers.
Talked about that ad nauseum.
Yeah. You got the Ryan Garcia
Big
fight this weekend.
People are saying
tomorrow
fight
night.
of the year. I forget the guy he's fighting, but yeah, Ryan Garcia.
Why can't I think of his name?
Starts with a C, right?
No.
Okay.
I'm literally picking him to win. I'm betting on him to win.
Wow, how about
I can't remember his name.
Little boxing betting there.
Yeah, I'll be watching that tomorrow night though, for sure.
Well, there's lots of other things you can watch this weekend. Opening in theaters, there's 2 movies. One is called Beau is Afraid. It comes out today. Here's the tag.
Javante Davis.
Tank
Davis.
Right. Tank Davis.
That's right.
That'll be a good fight.
It will be really. Both are undefeated.
DAZN, fork up some money to DAZN and maybe buy
like
that
$60
pay-per-view there. Yeah, something like that. It's pretty manageable if you're an adult with a job.
All right, tell me about this movie.
There's 2 movies coming out this weekend. One of them I've just seen a lot of promotion about. I'm not a fan of the actor necessarily in it, so I might see it, I might not. It's called Beau is Afraid. It comes out today. The tagline is a paranoid man embarks on an epic odyssey to get home to his mother in this bold and ingeniously depraved new film from writer-director Ari Aster, who directed Misnomer, if you've ever heard of that. Midsommar. I said Misnomer.
You did.
Midsommar is what he directed. A24 is a production company. They dominated the Oscars. A24 did. Everything Everywhere All at Once is an A24 movie. Ton of A24 movies there. It's billed as a comedy drama, so kind of has everything people like. Joaquin Phoenix is in it, who, if you've seen The Joker, he's the Joker. He's Johnny Cash in Walk the Line. He's in Gladiators and a bunch of movies. Nathan Lane from the producers and The Birdcage, and he's also Timon in The Lion King is in it. I love Nathan Lane, so I might see it for that. And Amy Ryan, who plays Holly Flax in The Office, if you're an Office fan.
Interesting.
She plays Holly in that. Not super well reviewed, not terribly reviewed, maybe worth a shot. It's kind of maybe a pretentious movie. This other movie I'm actually interested in, it's called Somewhere in Queens. It's a movie making his directorial debut is Ray Romano from Everybody Loves Raymond, and I think he made another show called Men at Work. I can't remember. That's a band as well. I can't remember. Men of a Certain Age. It was on TBS. That's
gotcha.
right. That comes out today. The tagline is Leo Russ, played by Romano, lives a simple life in Queens, New York with his wife, Angel, played by Laurie Metcalf from Roseanne and The Connors. She also plays Sheldon Cooper's mom in The Big Bang Theory. Very talented actress. And their shy but talented son, Styx. And they have a close-knit network of Italian-American relatives played by Sebastian Maniscalco, who plays his brother, a famous comedian in that regard. Basically, the story is the son has an opportunity to play basketball in college, but sudden heartbreak threatens to derail Styx, which is the son's name, and Leo must go to unexpected lengths to keep his son on this new path. Billed as a comedy drama. Ray Romano, Laurie Metcalf, Sebastian Maniscalco.
Those names in it. That sounds like a good movie.
And the college basketball angle.
Yeah.
I'm very interested in this movie.
Like a movie.
I love Ray Romano, a little bit of mix of that comedy drama there. I love Laurie Metcalf. It should be a really good movie in that regard. You've seen Creed 3 still in theaters, Bryant.
Oh, man.
You liked Creed 3?
It's a good movie. Really good movie.
John Wick 4 still out. Super Mario Brothers movie is out. I know people might not be animated fans, but it's super popular.
That's been popular. Have you seen that the horror movie that the commercial comes out on every single time you go to a commercial break?
Evil Dead Rise.
Evil Dead Rise
That's part of the and Guy Ritchie has a movie called The Covenant with Jake Gyllenhaal. Renfield starring Nicolas Cage is still out. Air, the Nike movie with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck is still out. And then the Super Mario Brothers movie, I know not everybody might not be into animated movies, but it is I think it is past the most money any animated movies ever made, very popular.
Wow.
And then Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves is the most critically acclaimed movie that's
Heard
out in
really good
theaters
things
now.
about it.
Really good things. I know the Dungeons and Dragons might throw people off.
Scares me off a little.
Very popular movie in its own right, so I recommend all of those things. And then Barry's back on HBO. So, Bryant, that's what I'm going to be watching this week.
Sounds like a lot of TV and movies.
We'll see you this afternoon, and Wolo will be back on Monday. John's next.
With winter arriving, we start to think